Okay, so about 12 years ago or so, I had a friend on the internet help me play test this lovely creation over the intertubes, which was done with dial-up. Yeah, all that noise. Aggravating, nothing like we've got now. But we still had chat rooms, and you could still write JavaScript for dice rollers, and I spent hundreds of hours putting together a Final Fantasy VII role-playing game themed on the Final Fantasy VII universe. It was basically a way that people could play out their own fan fiction. And it had, of course, you know, your character bios, your stats for NPCs, Vincent, you know, and this is a second edition with the full-size arts on each page. Did some stuff with some 8-bit things, made charts and graphs, but essentially, there were stats for every spell in the game, stats for materia growth that had been modified for tabletop role-playing, because you're clearly not going to get the same numbers in tabletop that you're going to get in a video game. It had to be modified, so, you know, taking a hint from 8, went ahead and made it so all the levels were gained for every 777 experience points, but kept the creature bestiary experience pretty much in line with what it had in the game. And then that seemed to work. And then we made a mechanic for limit breaks. People could build their own limit breaks from scratch, or they could, you know, bogart some from legendary characters, Avalanche, etc. They came out with 2 source books even. We had the Turk source book and the source book for Soldier, which is a little dated, but the literature in here is all the stuff I wrote up myself, doing what I could to research everything about Tetsuya Nomura and his storyline ideas, what brief translations I could find of the Ultimania Guide, and it essentially has the creation of Soldier, Sephiroth's last name as we knew it at the time, the whole backstory to the Wutai War, which we kind of saw in Crisis Core. I was actually pleased to see that I was fairly accurate. And of course, with every source book, you got some new stuff that wasn't in the core rule book. Like you got some new modifiers for making Turks NPCs, new character sheets that added in things like if you were a member of Soldier, you had a pay grade, and you had different experience deficits and bonuses for being employed by Shinra. Same kind of deal with the Turks, similar concept. The introduction to the Turks, where they came about, same kind of thing. This was actually the first source book that got done, and it was kind of the introduction of these extended art prints on the side panels of character forms, and which got later incorporated into the second edition core book. And then after I messed around with 7 for a while, I started working on a 3rd edition. But I moved to Georgia, and life got kind of out of whack, and I never quite got to it. But before I dropped the project altogether to focus on being an adult, which was a horrible decision, I also started working on Chrono Trigger, which, taking everything I knew about what was good with 7, and incorporated it into Trigger. Trigger is probably the closest thing to 3rd edition 7 that I really wanted to aspire to. You, had different races that you could be. You could be human or mystic, robot, or one of the enlightened, like a Zeal descendant. It had a brief little set of definitions for new style players, people who hadn't played tabletop before. Some basic background on each of the different time periods, pictures for all the possible NPC villains you might come across in random battles, notes on what took place in the different time periods. Took some pictures of the time egg from Cross, put some text, some bestiary. I put a full-on graph bestiary in there. Made a list of different spell text you could do, and showed pictures of the pluses and who it took to do things. It was really impressive. Unfortunately, I never got to finish it. But yeah, it's pretty epic. It's something that I'm highly proud of, and even if no one else other than the friends I had when I was 15 and 16, even if nobody else gets to play with it, it was great, and it allowed me to obtain easily 300, 400 plus hours of wonderful stories and fan experiences. And if you've ever played tabletop before, you know that everyone contributes, the players and the storyteller, and sometimes things change, and it's just great to see people's different ideas get tossed together into this wonderful, wonderful thing. And I guess it's just a project I miss, and I wanted to share. So, thanks for your time. I hope that someone finds this at least a little interesting, and who knows, maybe when I get some more spare time, I'll put together a 3rd edition after all.